Welcome to Father Matt's Bible Studies and Sermons videos and podcast. In today's Bible study, we study the Pentateuch, beginning with Genesis and continuing with Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. God bless you and hope you enjoy the Bible study. Let us pray. Almighty God, bless our Bible study. Open our hearts and minds to the Scripture and keep us enlightened as we continue to read through the book of Exodus. All this we ask through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Okay,
Amen.
so we are still at Mount Sinai in Exodus. We are at chapter basically 25. We've just had what seemed like multiple theophanies, appearances of the Lord all at once. And I will show you exactly what we had if I can figure out which, there we go, share, Kindle. So we were on the mountain with God. And the tail end of this was the glory of the Lord. You may remember there was one that talked about the tablets and then the cloud covering, and then they saw God's feet. And so there was a bunch of stuff that was all kind of together. All three of our narratives kind of wind up here on the mountain. And this one, the glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. And the seventh day he called to Moses out of the cloud. Now the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire on top of the mountain in the sight of the Israelites. And then Moses entered the cloud and went up on the mountain. And then Moses was there for 40 days and 40 nights. This part of it should give you a cue that we're now dealing with a narrator that likes a lot of the religious details, right? The seventh day, the sixth day, creation. If you remember, that's how this whole particular narrative thread started. And for the next 7 chapters, I think it starts at chapter 25 and goes through 31. We are going to learn from this narrator about the instructions for how to build the tabernacle. The tabernacle preceded the temple, and the tabernacle was essentially a tent that went with the people. Different narrators actually have this in different ways. One of them has it and calls it a tent of meeting, and the other calls it sort of just the tabernacle or tent. And in one, and you'll see this as we read through, but it's sometimes one of the narrators has it outside of the camp. That's the tent of meeting one, and Moses will go out and meet at the tent of meeting. And the other one has it right in the middle, and the camp is built around it in sort of a structure formation so that basically all 12 tribes are formed around the tabernacle, and it's in the middle. So you've got 2 different kind of variants of how it's set up. The one that has it outside the camp doesn't really give any instructions for how to build it. That's just where God and Moses meet. And the other one gives incredibly detailed instructions that go on for chapters. And that's what we're going to get today. This narrator is usually called the priestly source. And as we read through, you will begin to understand why, in particular in this passage, the priest's interests is a little more heavily narrated. So, before we begin, I wanted to show you a video that's pretty short, and the tabernacle, because there's like 7 chapters of instructions of how it's supposed to be built, and then there's more chapters afterwards following those exact detailed instructions. There's a pretty good idea of what this looked like, but what's interesting is that all of the instructions are not there. And there's a line that basically at the end of it that says, and God told Moses how to put all this together. And so you're kind of missing the key. If you actually wanted to build it, you can't. So there's a lot of online stuff. If you Google Tabernacle Bible, you'll see a million different people that have come up with their own version of it. What you will discover is it's not always the same, right? If you just look at this one right here, and this one, they don't have the same shape. They don't, so it's not always the same thing. So they're all kind of guessing based on, I'd say, like 80% of the instructions are there, but how to put it together and what it actually is supposed to look like is not there. And that can either come from the fact that Moses knew how to build tents, and so like it's just assumed that that's the way it was, and stuff that's not narrated is kind of common sense, or it's specifically not narrated because they don't want you to rebuild it at some other point or try to rebuild it. And I tend to be in the second camp on that one, that they don't give you all the instructions, and Moses is told, at the end, here's how you put it together, because they didn't want anybody to be building their own second tabernacle. That's kind of my feeling. So take everything you see online with a bit of a grain of salt in terms of what it's actually supposed to look like. It's pretty, there's a lot of common things that for the most part you can guess. But if you want to spend time, and you can just see on this, like some seem to be square and some are not, and it really depends on kind of how people are interpreting it. So when we watch this video, which has one of those wonderfully awful AI voices, you will get a sense, I think, of probably how it was designed and what it looked like. Can you see the full screen now? Did it just go full screen? If you have any audio problems, let me know, because sometimes that happens. But this is about a 2-minute video.
The Tabernacle.
Is it moving now?
In Exodus 25, 8 through 9, God spoke to Moses, saying, "Make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell in the midst of them, according to all that I show you, the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its equipment. And so you will do." This portable temple was built in the wilderness by the Israelites, circa 1450 BC, after they were freed from Egyptian slavery. Moses was given specific instructions regarding the construction of the tabernacle in Exodus 26. The tent itself sat within a curtained enclosure that was supported by pillars. This courtyard was about a quarter of the size of an American football field. Several slaughtering tables stood within the court of the tabernacle, along with the bronze laver and the bronze altar. The tabernacle itself was a rectangular-shaped structure. Its roof consisted of multiple layers of animal skins and linens. An outer covering of tachash skin, which may have been porpoise, beaver, or a type of leather. A covering of ram skin dyed red. A curtain of goat's hair. And finally, a curtain of fine linen. The interior of the tabernacle was divided into 2 sections that housed a number of sacred objects. The first section, the holy place, contained the table of showbread, the lampstand, and the altar of incense. Beyond a veil lay the Holy of Holies, or the most holy place, which housed the Ark of the Covenant. The tabernacle was the first temple dedicated to God and the first resting place of the Ark of the Covenant. It served as a place of worship and sacrifices during the Israelites' 40 years in the desert and their subsequent conquest of the land of Canaan. This transportable house of worship was eventually replaced by a more permanent structure, King Solomon's Temple.
All right. Could you see it and hear it?
Yep.
Okay. As I said, take that all with a grain of salt. In the picture, I think you can still see it. Those look like plates. That's supposed to be bread. Those things, and related but not to the Bible. You can tell when it's one of those AI voices when it says things like "the bronze" and "the bronze" in one sentence and pronounces things differently. Very annoying. I can't, drives me nuts. So, all right, we're going to read about it now. But any comments or questions on kind of generally what it looked like? Okay. All right, let's go to the Kindle and let's go. Patrice, can you read the first chunk here?
The Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to take from me an offering. For all whose hearts prompt them to give, you shall receive the offering from me. This is the offering that you shall receive from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, and crimson yarns and fine linen, goat's hair, tan ram skins, fine leather, acacia wood, oil for the lamps, spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense, onyx, onyx stones and gems to be set in the ephod and for the breast piece. And they shall make me a sanctuary so that I may dwell among them, in accordance with all that I show you concerning the pattern of the tabernacle and of all its furniture, so you shall make it.
Great. Okay. This is the intro. Couple of things here that are helpful. One, everything that makes the tabernacle comes from offerings from the people, right? That's an important thing to remember. And when we get later on, different narrator, but when we get later on to the golden calf, again, same thing. The gold from the golden calf is from the people, right? So you have to remember that when they left Egypt, in multiple narrative things, remember they looted the Egyptians. That was part of it, right? So they have a fair amount of stuff. And the tabernacle, which will be literally the sanctuary that I may dwell among them, is made by the donations and offerings of the people.
In the video, talked about the covering of the tent might have been porpoise skin.
Yes. Okay,
Where
so
they got that from?
Great question. So this is the note right here, this W, fine leather, and it will probably go to something and say, meaning of Hebrew, uncertain. So at one point, and I don't remember the translation history well enough to give you any details on it, but at one point, probably in the Latin, is my guess, it was translated as like dolphin skin. And that's fairly unlikely that they would be carrying around dolphin skin, right? So this is why they've turned it into fine leather. What it means is they really don't know what the Hebrew meant. And so you've got, and you can get from the context, it's the outer layer, and it was probably something that was waterproof, right? And all these skins are basically waterproof, right? Leather is like that, but goat's hair is less so. Ram's hair, right? But if you think of leather, it's basically waterproof. So they were doing something that it's a three-tiered covering to keep it dry, right? Now it has to be, and this is actually pretty important, that whole thing that we saw has to get set up and taken down pretty regularly, right? Like every time they move, they have to set the whole thing up again. So it all still has to be somewhat portable, right? So if it's a big skin roof that's all sewn together, and we'll see that as we go, it's got to kind of fold up somehow, right? So, or something like that, or be stored for transport. But that's what that is. And I would probably steer you clear of porpoise skin as a translation. I think that's probably not the best translation there. So in general, when you're reading the Bible, the newer Bibles are better about this. When they have a note and it says that Hebrew uncertain, generally means that they don't know what it means and they've stopped trying to really be specific in terms of their guess. So it's probably some sort of leather. Okay. Also, so that God will dwell there. This is important. I mentioned those things that look like plates or bread, right? We'll get to this today. One of the things that's in there is the bread of the presence, and there was always supposed to be bread in there. And the idea probably doesn't sit all that well with us today. It's not like church where we have reserved sacrament that is for us, right? Similar, if you think about it, right? We've got reserved sacrament in the sanctuary right now, right? There's bread in there, and it's stored there. But that's for us. That's for people that are sick. This would have been for God, right? And the idea is that God lives here, so God needs some food, right? And when we get into the different rooms in the tabernacle, you'll see in literally, like when the priests walk in, they're supposed to wear bells and things like that. That's to announce their arrival, probably so God is not caught unawares, right? And so there's kind of a very human element to how God is envisioned in this, for what that's worth. But everything is going to be here. And the last little bit is, in accordance with all that I show you concerning the pattern of the tabernacle, you shall make it. This is the missing instructions, right? Like, I'm going to show you how to do this, but I'm going to give you instructions, but I'm going to show you how to put it all together. And it's not like they were sometime in the text and fell out. It's just there's this idea that I think you're not really supposed to be building it on your own. So they don't give you all the details. They just tell you about what's in each area and how the really important treasures are supposed to be molded or sewn or what have you, or fitted into these things. Okay. Any comments on that? JD, can you read the Ark of the Covenant? This is going to go on for a tiny bit, but not crazy long.
Mm-hmm. They shall make an ark of acacia wood. It shall be 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. You shall overlay it with pure gold. Inside and outside you shall overlay it, and you shall make a molding of gold upon it all around. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them on its 4 feet, 2 rings on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side. You shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. And you shall put the poles into the rings on the side of the ark for carrying the ark. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark, they shall not be removed. You shall put the covenant that I am giving you into the ark. Then you shall make a cover of pure gold. 2.5 cubits shall be its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. You shall make 2 cherubim of gold. You shall make them of hammered work at the 2 ends of the cover. Make 1 cherub at one end and 1 cherub at the other. Of one piece with the cover you shall make the cherubim at its 2 ends. The cherubim will spread out their wings above, overshadowing the cover with their wings. They shall face one another. The faces of the cherubim shall be turned toward the cover. You shall put the cover on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the covenant that I am giving you. There I will meet with you, and from above the cover, from between the 2 cherubim that are on the ark of the covenant, I will tell you all that I am commanding you for the Israelites.
Great. Okay. I have to say it gets less interesting from here. This is kind of neat from here on out. It gets a little less interesting when you start getting into other furniture. But this is the Ark of the Covenant. You probably know it from Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Actually, that movie was just called Raiders of the Lost Ark. The ones after had Indiana Jones and. So it's made of wood. A cubit is like elbow to end of arm, right? So that's a cubit. So it's yay wide, right? Like it's probably like 4 feet wide, give or take, something like that. And about 2 feet high, something like that. Or wide or long. It's like 4 feet long and like 2 feet wide and 2 feet high, right? So it's a rectangle. It's got gold inside and out. It's a box, essentially, a rectangular box that's made of wood with gold. It has 4 rings on it, so they can carry it from place to place to place with poles. If we look at our drawing here, right, here's Holy of Holies. In this one, I'm not sure how well we can see it, but if we look at it, you can see that the poles are, in fact, in the ark, right? The poles get left in. And so whoever designed this did an okay job. But we'll see when we get to the curtains and what they look like. That gets more complex. So it's got the rings in it, and it's so that they can carry it from place to place. You will see later on in like the book of Judges and definitely in Joshua and in some other places, they carry it around, and sometimes they bring it to war with them, right? Because they're with, so anytime that, if you think about it, they go to war and it's with them. So, and it gets stolen at one point by the Philistines. So the poles also are made of the same wood. They're covered with gold. They go in the rings on the side. The poles don't get removed. And you put the covenant into the ark. What does that actually mean is a good question. That's kind of unclear what exactly they're putting into the ark. If you combine all of our narrators, which obviously the Bible does, then we know what the covenant is. It's just exactly what we just had, right? So the covenant is the that code that started with the 10 Commandments. So that's your basic law that talks about what you're supposed to do, and that's what the agreement was. So something like that gets put in. This, I don't know if anybody has a different translation. They used to translate cover as mercy seat or something like that. You shall make a mercy seat or a throne or something. It's probably just a cover, but you will make a cover, and it's made of pure gold. It's got 2 angels. Let's see if we can find. These are always fun. Ark of the Covenant. Easy. Somebody's got this thing drawn out very well, no matter how you cut it. Here's one. You could probably buy it online. Yeah, you can buy this online if you want. This one is $696. Somebody's decided. It's gold plated. It's probably not a. Yeah, and interesting. Aluminum Christian religious decor. Yeah, so that's not a perfect version of it, but at least
is that?
Huh?
How big is that thing that somebody's buying?
I bet it's not very big.
Oh.
I mean, it's not like they're going to carry it around their house.
Here's the side for you. I just recently went to a funeral, and one of the guys thought he was a pole bearer. I said, no, you're not a pole bearer. You're a pall bearer.
Yes.
Because I always thought that, the poles on the side of the casket, like this thing,
Yeah.
they thought they were pole bearers.
Well, there are usually handles on the side of the casket. The pall is the cloth.
It's a doily. They said, oh, it's that doily that's on top of the casket? I said, yeah, that doily thing.
Yeah, very large doily, I guess. So this box this is 33. This is centimeters, not very big. 33 by 44 by.
Sorry.
Again, take this all with a grain of salt. This is how they've decided to make their mercy seat. Is that little circle? Here's a different one. Right. Clearly a very different version of this. Right. This one you can do it yourself. Laser 3D kit. Like as a related aside, the level of creepiness that kind of gets into people trying to make this stuff now is a little weird. It's very interesting, but one of the things that they really didn't want was people building their own version of this, and everybody seems to like to have their own version of this. I'll try another one. Here they are walking. Right. You can see the angels. Those are the cherubim on top, right? And they're always designed differently. The idea, though, is that, and see that the handles on this are on the alternate side, right? People don't really know what it looked like, right? Because they've got poles on one side. This guy's wrong, right? We know that the poles are supposed to be covered in gold, right? So this one's sideways. This is wrong because there's two people there worshiping. That wouldn't have happened. Only one, the high priest, would have gotten in there. This one's wrong because the poles are not in it, right? So if you know what you're talking about, you can critique all this stuff really quickly and easily. Indiana Jones or somebody like that, wrong. The poles are not there, right? Mm-hmm. Here's a whole bunch of them. I don't understand what that's about. But in any event, what the idea is that this is not terrible. God would have sat in the middle of this. And it probably would have been more like this, to be honest. It probably would have been. God would have sat or stood. That's like the throne. That's the idea. It's like this is where Moses goes in, or the priest goes in and encounters God in this Holy of Holies in here. And God would have, and see, this is probably wrong too because it's the wrong direction. So most of these are just not particularly right. But you would have gone in and encountered God in this. Let me see if I can find a way to view this without.
Excuse me, Father Matt, can we look at something that is a cherubim? Because somehow I thought the angel looked, I guess, a little more endearing. And what we see on the top of these arcs are not very endearing. They just look like birds.
Angels would not be. Angels in the Bible are never in any place ever endearing. They're not little cherubim things that are in gardens. They're terrifying, giant, crazy things with wings and many eyes and sometimes wheels and lots of fire and smoke.
All right. Thank you for that clarification.
If you encounter an angel. So these are designs. These look very human-like. When we get, they don't tell you how to exactly do it, but the wings cover, what did it say? The cherubim shall spread out their wings, right? Overshadowing the cover with their wings. They shall face one another. The faces of the cherubim shall be turned to the cover. You shall put the cover on top of the ark, and the ark you shall put in the covenant that I'm giving you. There I will meet with you. There's not a whole lot of detail, but when you get other angels, let me jump ahead to Bible. gateway. Let's go to angel Ezekiel. Let's see if that comes up. Okay, here's a cherubim. All right, you want to see what a cherubim looks like in terms of what Ezekiel says? Let me make this bigger. I looked, and above the dome, this is a vision that Ezekiel has. We've read this. We read this when we read Ezekiel. Above the dome that was over the heads of the cherubim, there appeared something like a sapphire. Let's see what we can find with a... let's see, wheels. Sorry. All right, the cherubim appeared to have the form of a human hand under their wings. So they got wings and hands. I looked, and there were 4 wheels beside the cherubim, one beside each. The appearance of the wheels was like gleaming beryl, and for their appearance, the 4 looked like something like a wheel within a wheel. You might have heard that expression. That's where it comes from. When they moved in any of the 4 directions, veering as they moved, whatever direction the front wheel faced. As you read through this, their entire bodies, backs, hands, and wings were covered with eyes all around, as were the wheels of the 4 of them. And as for the wheels, the wheels were calling them in my hearing, the wheelwork. Each one had 4 faces. These are the cherubim. The first face was that of the cherub. The second face was that of the human. The third face was that of a lion. And the fourth was that of an eagle. These are not things you want to run into. That's what is going on here, right? So now Ezekiel gives us a description.
Got it.
Exodus does not, right? And when you get into other places, you'll get different descriptions as well. But Christian art has kind of dumbed these things down. And,
okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So like, let's see what cherubim Bible. Let's see what that if somebody's drawn one of these things out. There's a crazy looking cherubim, right? There's one. Here's one. Right, 6-winged cherubim. They eventually get to 6 wings. There's one with the wheels. Somebody's decided to draw these different things out.
Wow.
Yeah, they're strange.
What a misconception I had.
Not a cherub, right? That's probably that's a weird version of that, but multiple feet, hands. It's a weird looking thing. Whether it was that at the time of Exodus, I don't know, right? Like whether that was that, but at this point, it's some sort of thing. And again, Exodus is funny. It doesn't describe what it's supposed to look like. Oh, and by the way, a cherubim is blah, blah, blah. You're just supposed to know, right? So, okay, that's the Ark of the Covenant. Any other questions about the Ark of the Covenant? Okay. James, can you read the table for the bread of the presence? All right, James is asleep. Patrice, can you read the bread of the table for the bread of the presence?
You shall make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high. You shall overlay it with pure gold and make a molding of gold around it. You shall make around it a rim, a handbreadth wide, and a molding of gold around the rim. You shall make it 4 rings of gold and fasten the rings to the 4 corners at its 4 legs. The rings that hold the poles used for carrying the table shall be close to the rim. You shall make the poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, and the table shall be carried with these. You shall make its plates and dishes and its flagons and bowls with which to pour drink offerings. You shall make them of pure gold, and you shall set the bread of the presence on the table before me continually.
Great. Okay, so this is the dining room table. That's what this is, and it has dishes and flagons, and it's always got to have bread. It's implied that there's always going to be wine there too, right? For drink offerings and that sort of thing. Who eats it and drinks it? Well, God, but they replace it from time to time. So, whether it actually got eaten or drunk is a different issue. But they do keep it fresh and that sort of thing. It is also just like the ark, same wood, about the same size, right? So it's a table and it's covered in gold. And you same thing with the rings, and you put poles in it. And notice one difference is the poles don't stay in it. Did you catch that? Like the poles seem to be able to be taken out, right? Or maybe not, but it's not mandated that they have to be put in all the time. But it looks kind of the same. Doesn't tell you where to put it, right? You're just making the table. You've made the ark, you made the table. Later on, we'll see where things get put. Any questions on the bread of the presence?
Yeah, I just have a comment. They were all basically sort of almost slaves, right, in Egypt when they left. And now it seems to be a lot of gold around to.
Well, remember they looted the Egyptians on the way out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right? They looted the Egyptians.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Forgot that.
And that happens, we've been dealing with 3 narrators. That happens, I think, in all 3, or at least in 2 of them.
Right. Okay, sorry, forgot that.
Yeah, no, they looted the Egyptians. And again, in the Bible, things happen for a reason, right? It seems like a throwaway at the beginning. Oh, they loot the Egyptians. What are they going to, well, they're going to use all that stuff, right? They're going to use it along the way. Okay, the lampstand. James. JD, can you read the, James, can you read the lampstand?
Yes.
Can you read the lampstand section?
Yes. Lampstand. You shall make a lampstand of pure gold. The base and the shaft of the lampstand shall be made of hammered work. Its cups, its calyxus, and its petals shall be of one piece. And there shall be 6 branches going out of its sides. 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side of it, and 3 branches of the lampstand going out of the other side. 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with calyx and petals on one branch, and 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with calyx and petals on the other branch. So, for the 6 branches going out of the lampstand, on the lampstand itself, there shall be 4 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with its calyxes and petals. There shall be a calyx on one piece, and it under the first pair of branches. A calyx of one piece with it under the next pair of branches, and a calyx of one piece with it under the last pair of branches. So for the 6 branches that go out of the lampstand, their calyxes and their branches shall be of one piece, and it, the whole of it, one hammered piece of 7 lamps for it, and the lamps shall be set up so as to give light on the space in front of it. Its snuffers and trays shall be of pure gold. It and all these utensils shall be made from a talent of pure gold. And see that you make them according to the pattern for them, which is being shown you on the mountain.
Great. Okay. Anybody know what the lampstand is called in modern parlance?
Yes, it's a thing that they use on Hanukkah.
Yeah, what's it called?
Menorah.
Menorah. Yes,
The menorah, right? So, again, this is where it's fun with the internet, right? Lamp stand Bible. There it is, right? But notice it's not always designed the same way, right? Like, is it flat across? Is it, how is it designed, right? These are all fairly similar. Anybody see the one in, is it menorah? Menorah? Menorah in the Bible. Bonk. Right? These are designed a little bit differently, right? This one's got triangles. This one's got this. How do you know how it was designed? Well, remember, when you went to Israel, did you see the one that was in Israel? Anybody see that one? There it is. It's a replica, but it's made of gold. It's huge. Does that ring a bell? Anybody remember seeing that when you were there?
Mm.
So one way we know what it
No,
looked like.
I
You
don't
don't
remember
want
that
you
at
want to
all.
know a very interesting way that you know what it looks like, because when it was sacked and the temple was destroyed, Titus had an arch built that showed them taking it out. So arguably the most valuable archaeological piece of evidence in terms of what it looked like is actually this arch, the Arch of Titus, which is in Rome, and shows the menorah being brought out of the temple. So that's why most of your drawings look like that. All right, because they took it, and there was only one, and it had, as Jim read, 6 branches and the one in the middle, and up until the end when you're reading it, it's like it sounds like there's only 6, but then there's 7 lights. A talent of gold. It doesn't tell you how big it is. Did you catch that? There was no it shall be XYZ cubits high, but it's made of a talent of gold. Talent of gold weight. Not golf. Gold. Talent of gold weight. Right? 75 to 125 pounds. So again, when you get into how big was it, the reason they guess how big it was because of this arch, right? That's what they're guessing. And does that look like if it was solid gold? I don't know if anybody of you have lifted gold before. Does that look like, how much do you think that would weigh if it was solid gold? Anybody have a guess?
That would be more than 70 to 80 pounds.
So, yeah. So you want to, gold, 100-pound bar. Want to see what it looks like? Not so big,
Yeah.
right? There's your iPhone, right? There's, what's a kilogram? Maybe it is bigger than that. Let's see. That's kilos, though. Anybody know what a kilo to a pound is? The internet.
See, I know a gram is something like 450.
So a kilo is 2 pounds. So it'd be the size of 100 pounds of gold would be. Let's see what that is. What is golf? That's just my autocorrect. It's a lot of money for what it's worth. 100 pounds of gold is worth approximately $7.5 million right now.
How much does a gold bar weigh? 1 troy, right?
It's a kilo. Gold bar
Is a kilo?
weight, I think, is a kilo. How much does a gold bar weigh?
12.4 kilograms.
Yeah. So
400 ounces.
400 ounces. So
Well,
how
there you
many
go.
bars are we talking about? 16 times 100 divided by 4. My math is all off right now. 100 pounds in ounces is what? Too early in the morning. 1,600. So it's 4 gold bars. I'm just saying, like, was it pure gold? I don't know, right? Like, they say it was pure gold. So did they, and here's the thing. You have to remember that the temple was destroyed before the Romans destroyed it, right? That was the second temple. So when we get to Titus's thing, one of the things Herod did was everything was bigger. Everything was made bigger. The temple was bigger. The whole thing was bigger. And so he wanted a temple that was significantly bigger. So it's possible, and I don't know, like the Bible may say that they did a bigger menorah, but it seems like the original menorah, assuming we've got the math right, is is not as big as this, I'm guessing. So for what that's worth, which doesn't mean the Bible is wrong. It just means that over time maybe the menorah was changed out to something different that was bigger. All right, that's that one chapter. The next chapter we will get the tabernacle itself. So this is worth. There's a logic to this. Like, it wasn't first, this is how you build the house, and then we're going to this is the furniture we're going to put in. It was, these are the really, really important things in order, right? First is where God will sit and the covenant will be. Second is the table that is basically the dining room table. And third is how you're going to light the room, right? So, and those are the three most important things. They were all made of gold, and the table and the ark itself were gold on top of wood, and the lampstand, the menorah, is made of solid gold. And again, in each one of these, it gives you some detail, but this is beautiful. This sort of thing pops up from time to time in this section. And see that you make them according to the pattern for them, which is being shown you on the mountain. So, like, I think the idea here is Moses is basically getting some vision of what it's supposed to look like, and it's not written down, right? So, okay, this is what it's supposed to look like, so Moses goes down, and they will make it later. But interesting, I think it's interesting stuff, but it gets a little more into buildings and curtains and things like that in the next couple of chapters. Any comments on any of that? If you are interested in something to do, Google is fun to look at some of these things, right, and figure out how big and small things are. But again, keep in mind what's going on in the tabernacle in the wilderness is not necessarily the same as what's going on at the temple, right? The temple is bigger, it's more permanent, that sort of thing, and so they tried to recreate it and build the temple, but there's also multiple temples. The original temple from Solomon gets destroyed by the Babylonians, and the second one gets built and then rebuilt by Herod. It gets built by Ezra and Nehemiah and that whole era, and then gets rebuilt or expanded by Herod, and then it gets destroyed by the Romans. And so it's not exactly clear what everything looked like. And you can find stuff on the internet which is helpful, but take it all with a grain of salt, because much of it is done without a lot of the detail, and much of it is also done by evangelicals that have an ulterior motive for why they're doing things and how they're designing things, which is not always that obvious. But all right, any final thoughts? All right, see you next week. All right, bye.